The research station drifted at the edge of known space, a ring of metal and light wrapped around a silent artificial star. Thousands of species passed through its corridors, each believing themselves important, advanced, or essential to the galaxy. Among them were humans, newly arrived and barely noticed. To most of the station's residents, humans were background noise. They came from a small, unstable world filled with storms, shifting land, and violent history. Their technology was adequate but unremarkable. Their biology was fragile compared to many species who had natural armor, faster minds, or longer lives. Humans were labeled as a developing species and assigned low-priority docking bays and limited access. Lyra watched them from behind a transparent observation wall. She was young by her species' standards, her smooth, blue-gray skin marked with faint bioluminescent lines that shifted with her thoughts. As a xenological observer, she was trained to analyze behavior without emotion. Her people valued logic above all else. Curiosity was acceptable, but attachment was not. Humans were supposed to be boring. Her assignment was simple. Observe the humans for one rotation cycle, record basic habits, and confirm previous assessments. The task was given to her because it was considered safe and dull. Senior researchers preferred studying energy-based life forms or ancient machine intelligences, not mammals from a dangerous planet. Lyra expected chaos. Humans had a reputation for emotional instability. Instead, she saw order. In the docking bay, a human crew unloaded cargo with practiced movements. Their bodies were small and soft compared to many station workers, yet they moved with confidence. One of them laughed as a container slipped, narrowly missing his foot. Another human scolded him, not in anger, but with concern. Lyra tilted her head slightly. Laughter during potential injury was unusual. She followed them through internal cameras as they entered the station. Humans paused to look around. Not with fear, but with wonder. Some stared at the artificial star. Others whispered to each other, pointing at alien ships and architecture. They were cautious, but not timid. Later, Lyra observed a human maintenance worker in a lower corridor. The corridor was old, rarely used, and scheduled for renovation. A small alien child from another species had wandered into the area and tripped, injuring one of its limbs. Station protocol required waiting for medical drones. The human did not wait. He removed his jacket, wrapped it around the injured limb, and stayed with the child, speaking softly, in a language the child did not understand. His voice was calm. When security arrived, the human accepted a warning for violating protocol without argument. Lyra paused her recording. This behavior did not match the data. Humans were supposed to prioritize themselves. Their planet's history showed frequent conflict. Yet this one had risked punishment for a stranger from another species. She marked the incident as an anomaly. As the cycle continued, anomalies multiplied. Humans gathered in small groups, sharing meals and stories. They invited others to join them, even species who rarely interacted socially. Lyra watched a human offer food to an insectoid engineer who could not eat it, then laugh and apologize, embarrassed by the mistake. The engineer did not laugh. Humans did anyway. Lyra did not understand why humor persisted in failure. She accessed public data on Earth. The planet was beautiful in a violent way. Vast oceans, unstable climates, frequent tectonic movement. Life there had evolved under constant threat: predators, disease, environmental collapse. Many species on the station would have classified Earth as a death world. Humans had been born into it. Her species evolved on a stable world with predictable seasons and minimal natural disasters. Their survival did not require constant adaptation. Humans, however, seemed shaped by struggle. That alone did not explain their behavior. During a routine safety drill, a simulated hull breach alarm echoed through the station. Most species followed instructions perfectly, moving to assigned shelters in silence. Humans did as well. But Lyra noticed something different. A human woman stopped when she saw an elderly alien struggling to move quickly. Without hesitation, she assisted him, supporting his weight until they reached safety. No one had ordered her to do so. It was inefficient. It increased her personal risk. When questioned later, the human simply said, "We don't leave people behind." Lyra replayed the recording several times. That phrase repeated often in human interactions. They applied it not only to their own kind, but to others. This behavior contradicted evolutionary logic, as Lyra understood it. Cooperation within a species was common. Cooperation beyond it, especially at personal cost, was rare. Her curiosity deepened into something uncomfortable. She requested additional observation time. The request was approved automatically. No one cared enough to deny it. In the human residential sector, Lyra noticed walls decorated with images. Earth, landscapes, families, symbols of loss and hope. One image showed a damaged ship with the words, "Still Flying," painted on its side. She researched the phrase. It came from a human story about survival against overwhelming odds. Humans seemed obsessed with stories. They told them constantly. Stories of failure, disaster, and recovery. Stories where victory was uncertain, but effort was constant. Lyra listened as a human technician spoke about a past mission where everything went wrong. He described it with seriousness, then ended with a joke. The others laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was shared. Lyra realized that humans processed fear and trauma differently. They did not deny it. They acknowledged it, then moved forward anyway. That disturbed her. Her species avoided fear by avoiding risk. Humans walked directly into it. Late in the cycle, an unscheduled power fluctuation struck a non-critical sector. Lights flickered. Systems rebooted. It was not dangerous, but it caused confusion. Automated messages instructed residents to remain in place. Humans did not remain in place. Several volunteered to assist station engineers, offering manual labor and problem-solving skills. They crawled through maintenance shafts not designed for their bodies, improvising tools when standard equipment failed. Lyra watched one human injure his hand while sealing a panel. He wrapped it quickly and continued working. Pain did not stop him. When asked why he did not wait for medical treatment, he replied, "It can wait. Power can't." Lyra's bioluminescent markings dimmed slightly, a sign of internal conflict. Her training struggled to categorize this behavior. Humans were not acting irrationally. They were acting according to a different set of values. Efficiency measured in survival, not comfort. When the power was restored, Station Command issued a formal acknowledgement. Humans received no special reward. They did not seem to expect one. As the cycle ended, Lyra compiled her report. The standard conclusion would have been easy. Humans are cooperative, adaptable, emotionally driven, and non-threatening. She did not submit that report. Instead, she hesitated. In her private notes, she wrote observations not requested by the Council. Humans showed resilience beyond expected limits. They displayed courage without aggression. They accepted suffering as normal rather than exceptional. Most importantly, they did not believe the universe owed them safety. They behaved as if disaster was always possible, and survival depended on action. Lyra looked once more at the human sectors, at their lights, their voices, their laughter echoing through steel corridors. For the first time in her career, she felt something close to unease. If humans were this calm during peace, she wondered what they would be like when truly tested. Her curiosity was no longer academic. It was personal. Lyra did not sleep during the next rest cycle. Her species did not require rest the way humans did. But even by her standards, she was overactive. Her thoughts returned again and again to the same question. Why did humans behave as if hardship was expected, even normal? She opened the deeper archive layers. Access to historical data from developing species was restricted, not forbidden. Most researchers avoided it because it was inefficient. Lyra did not avoid it. She began with Earth's early records. The first images showed a world that was alive but hostile. Storms that covered continents, earthquakes that broke cities apart, volcanic eruptions that darkened skies for years. Lyra paused often, adjusting her internal light patterns as she processed the scale of it. On her homeworld, such events were rare and localized. On Earth, they were recurring. She moved forward in time. Early human societies struggled constantly. Food shortages, disease outbreaks, environmental changes. Entire populations collapsed, only for others to rise later. Lyra searched for the moment when humans should have gone extinct. She found many. Asteroid impacts, ice ages, global pandemics, nuclear weapons capable of destroying their civilization. Each time, probability curves showed extinction was likely. Each time, humans survived. Not cleanly, not without loss, but they adapted. Lyra noted the pattern. Humans did not wait for perfect solutions. They used imperfect ones quickly. They accepted damage if survival was possible. Their technology advanced, not because conditions were ideal, but because conditions were desperate. She compared this to her own species' development. Stable environment, gradual progress, few existential threats. Their strength came from refinement. Human strength came from endurance. Lyra continued reading. Wars filled much of the archive. Conflicts between human groups, often violent and destructive. At first, Lyra thought this supported the coalition's belief that humans were unstable and dangerous. Then she looked closer. After each conflict, humans rebuilt. Not always better, but stronger. They created systems to prevent repetition. When those systems failed, they created new ones. Even their failures became lessons. Humans argued, fought, and made mistakes. Then they learned. Lyra realized something unsettling. Humans were not ignorant of their flaws. They documented them openly. They taught future generations about past failures so they would not be forgotten. Her species erased shameful periods from public memory. Humans preserved them. She closed the archive briefly and returned her attention to the station. Humans were active again. A transport vessel had arrived late, damaged by debris in a nearby transit lane. The ship was small, human-built, and outdated compared to coalition standards. Station control marked it as non-critical. Lyra watched as human crew members exited the ship. Their movements were tired but controlled. Damage reports indicated hull stress and failing power conduits. Then an alert appeared. A non-human civilian transport had been caught in the same debris field. Its engines were offline, and it was drifting toward a radiation zone. Coalition rescue ships calculated interception time and risk. The calculation concluded assistance was not optimal. Too much danger for limited reward. Lyra felt a familiar discomfort. Before command finalized the decision, the human ship changed course. Warnings were issued. The human captain acknowledged them and continued. Their ship's systems were already compromised. Radiation exposure would damage it further. Lyra focused on the human bridge feed. The captain's face showed strain, but his voice was steady. He issued clear orders. Crew members responded without panic. No one asked why they were risking their ship. They already knew. The human ship reached the civilian transport and attached manually. It was slow, difficult, and dangerous. Radiation alarms sounded constantly. Hull plating began to degrade. Lyra watched as human engineers rerouted power, using methods that violated coalition safety standards, but worked anyway. They transferred civilians aboard and detached seconds before systems failure. The human ship limped back to the station. Barely functional. Casualties. Minor injuries. Structural damage. Severe but repairable. Lyra checked the coalition response. There was none. The rescue had not been authorized. Therefore, it did not qualify for official commendation. The civilians were safe. The matter was closed. Humans did not protest. In the human sector, Lyra observed something she did not expect. The rescued civilians visited the damaged human ship. They brought food, tools, and assistance in whatever form they could provide. Humans accepted with awkward gratitude. This time, no one laughed. Lyra returned to the archive. She studied human military doctrine next, expecting confirmation of aggression. Instead, she found emphasis on logistics, morale, adaptability, and survival under stress. Human strategies accounted for failure as a possibility, not an exception. They trained for worst-case scenarios because they believed worst-case scenarios were inevitable. Her species trained to avoid them. Lyra understood now why humans seemed calm during station emergencies. They were not calm because danger was small. They were calm because danger was familiar. Another record caught her attention. A human phrase translated roughly as, "This is bad, but it could be worse." Lyra repeated it silently. It was not denial, it was perspective. As the cycle progressed, Lyra began informal interactions. She positioned herself in public areas near human crews. She did not speak at first. Humans noticed her and offered greetings anyway. One asked if she was studying them. She said yes. The human smiled. "Hope we're not too boring." Lyra replied honestly, "You are not." He seemed pleased by that. She asked simple questions. Why did they help strangers? Why did they accept pain without complaint? Why did they joke during danger? The answers were never complex. Because someone has to. Because stopping doesn't help. Because if we don't laugh, we panic. Lyra recorded everything. One conversation stayed with her. She asked a human medic why humans risked themselves for non-humans. The medic shrugged. "Pain looks the same on everyone." That answer followed her long after the conversation ended. Lyra reviewed her original assignment parameters. Observe, record, conclude. Her conclusion was changing. Humans were not reckless. They calculated differently. They accepted suffering as a cost, not a failure. They did not assume safety as a right. Most species in the coalition had evolved in environments that rewarded caution and stability. Humans evolved in one that punished hesitation. Lyra realized something else. Humans were not trying to prove anything to the galaxy. They were simply being what they had always been, survivors. Late in the cycle, Lyra prepared a preliminary report. She hesitated again. If she submitted the full truth, it would challenge established classifications. Humans would no longer fit neatly into the category of minor species. She remembered the damaged ship, the quiet rescue, the lack of recognition. Humans did not seek approval. That made them unpredictable. Lyra saved the report privately and delayed submission. Outside her observation chamber, human voices echoed through the station. They sounded tired. They sounded alive. Lyra looked at Earth's image one more time. A violent world. Beautiful and cruel. A place that shaped a species to endure. For the first time, Lyra felt concern not for humans, but for the galaxy that underestimated them. If hardship was humanity's teacher, then peace was only a pause. And Lyra suspected that when the galaxy finally faced something it could not calculate, humans would already know what to do. The crisis began without warning. Lyra was reviewing system logs when the station lights dimmed, then flared bright white. A low vibration passed through the structure, deep enough to be felt, rather than heard. Emergency symbols flooded her display, stacking faster than her systems could sort them. External impact, not debris. Not random. A massive unknown object had exited faster than light travel too close to the station. The shockwave tore through outer layers, damaging docking rings and sensor arrays. Several sectors lost power instantly. Station command activated emergency protocols. For most species, this was the moment fear appeared. Lyra switched to live feeds across the station. Corridors filled with movement. Aliens followed evacuation routes with discipline. But hesitation slowed them. Some species froze when their predictive models failed to give clear outcomes. The unknown object did not attack. It did not respond to signals. It simply drifted nearby, its presence disrupting local space-time fields. Calculations could not explain it quickly. Command waited. Lyra felt her unease deepen. Then she saw the humans. In the human sector, alarms sounded like everywhere else. Humans stopped what they were doing and moved with purpose. Not panic, not confusion. Purpose. Teams formed without orders. Engineers grabbed tools. Medics prepared triage areas. Pilots ran toward hangars even as warnings repeated that launches were restricted. Lyra focused on a human commander coordinating evacuation in a mixed-species corridor. His voice was calm, loud enough to cut through noise. "Keep moving. If you can walk, Help someone who can't. No debate. No hesitation. When a power conduit exploded nearby, scattering sparks and smoke, humans did not retreat. They shielded others with their bodies and kept going. Pain registered on their faces, but it did not slow them. Lyra checked station command logs. The council was still analyzing. Damage reports were incomplete. Probability models conflicted. Orders had not been finalized. Humans did not wait for finalized orders. In engineering sectors, humans entered restricted areas where automated systems had failed. Their species-specific safety limits were lower than others. Radiation levels that were dangerous but not instantly lethal to humans were deadly to many aliens. Humans went anyway. Lyra watched one human technician seal a ruptured bulkhead manually. Emergency shutters had jammed. Pressure was dropping fast. The technician anchored himself, using magnetic clamps and brute strength, forcing the seal into place while alarms screamed. His suit integrity dropped. His breathing was labored. He finished the task, signaled success, and collapsed. Medics reached him seconds later. Lyra's bioluminescent markings pulsed rapidly. Her mind searched for logic. Why accept such risk? Why choose pain and possible death when withdrawal was safer? The answer came from another feed. A group of alien civilians were trapped beyond that bulkhead. If it failed, they would have been lost. Humans had calculated that faster than the station's systems had. The unknown object shifted. Gravity fluctuated. Structural stress increased. Entire sections of the station groaned as if alive. Some species panicked. Their instincts demanded stillness or retreat. Humans adapted. When gravity reversed briefly, humans stumbled, laughed once, then adjusted. They tied themselves to rails, redistributed weight, changed movement patterns. Their flexibility allowed them to function where rigid species struggled. Lyra saw a human pilot volunteer to tow a damaged habitat ring away from the object's influence. Coalition pilots refused. The math showed too much risk. The human pilot said only, "I've flown worse odds." The tow succeeded. Barely. Casualties increased across the station, but they were lower than predicted. Not because the crisis was mild, but because humans filled gaps everywhere systems failed. Lyra accessed internal communication logs between alien officers. Confusion dominated. Why are the humans everywhere? They are not authorized. They are interfering. They are saving lives, one message finally said. Lyra followed that thread. An alien security commander had watched humans reroute evacuation flows, preventing a stampede that would have crushed hundreds. Humans had used physical presence and clear voice commands, something many species lacked. They had learned crowd control the hard way, on a planet full of disasters. The unknown object finally revealed its nature. It was not a ship. It was a fragment of ancient technology, long dead but still powerful. Its energy output was unstable. If it fully reactivated, the station would not survive. Station command reached a conclusion at last. Abandon the station. Lyra felt something close to dread. Evacuation ships were limited. Many species could not leave in time. Humans heard the order. They did not argue. They adjusted. Human crews began organizing last departures, prioritizing those who could not survive extended exposure. They set up shelters in shielded areas. They rationed supplies quickly and efficiently. Lyra watched a human group refuse evacuation seats offered to them, redirecting them to injured aliens instead. Next shuttle, one said. There might not be a next shuttle. Lyra understood that they knew this. A final plan formed among human engineers. It was crude. Dangerous. Against every coalition safety rule. They would manually overload a section of the station's reactor grid, creating a controlled energy pulse to push the ancient object away. The chance of success was low. The chance of survival, lower. Coalition Command rejected the plan. Humans executed it anyway. Lyra's systems screamed warnings as humans entered the reactor zone. Radiation spiked beyond recommended limits. Suits failed. Skin burned. Pain was evident even through video feeds. No one turned back. The pulse fired. Space warped. The ancient object drifted away. Destabilized but no longer a threat. The station's structure stabilized. Power returned unevenly, but enough. The cost was high. Several humans were injured severely. Some would never fully recover. But they lived. The station lived. Silence followed. Lyra observed station command scrambling to regain control, issuing statements, and restoring order. Without human intervention, survival probability had been near zero. Lyra replayed the crisis again and again. Humans had not been stronger. Not faster. Not more advanced. They had simply acted. They did not need certainty. They did not need permission. They needed only the knowledge that doing nothing would be worse. In the aftermath, humans returned to their sectors quietly. They did not celebrate. They treated injuries, repaired damage, shared food with those who had lost everything. Lyra watched a human laugh weakly while having burns treated. "Still here," he said. The phrase echoed in her mind. Still here. Lyra understood now. Humans were not fearless. They were familiar with fear. They did not see it as a signal to stop, but as information to work through. The galaxy had faced something unknown and hesitated. Humans had faced it and moved forward. As emergency lights dimmed and systems stabilized, Lyra prepared her final report. This time, she would not delay, because what she had witnessed was not coincidence or luck. It was a species shaped by a universe that tried, again and again, to end them, and failed. The station did not return to normal. It could not. Entire sections were sealed off, scorched by radiation and warped metal. Some corridors were dark forever. The artificial star still burned, but its light now fell on scars that would never fully fade. The crisis was over, yet its weight remained. Lyra stood before the council chamber doors, her bioluminescent markings steady but dimmer than usual. Inside, representatives of the coalition waited. Species that had ruled space for centuries, minds that trusted prediction, balance, and control. They expected a report. They did not expect the truth. Lyra entered and took her place. The chamber was silent. Data streams hovered in the air, frozen at the council's request. They wanted her words first. She began calmly, as she had been trained. She described the object, the failures, the delayed response. She did not soften the facts. Probability models had failed. Command hesitation had cost lives. Then she spoke of humans. She showed footage. Human engineers entering lethal zones. Human pilots towing damaged structures. Human medics working beyond exhaustion. Humans refusing evacuation seats. Humans executing a forbidden plan that saved the station. No exaggeration. No emotion in her voice. The council members shifted. One asked the question Lyra expected. Why did they act without authorization? Lyra answered simply, because waiting would have meant extinction. Another asked, why did they accept such losses? Lyra paused before replying. They did not see it as loss. They saw it as cost. Unforming. That answer unsettled the chamber. Lyra continued. She explained human history, the disasters, the near extinctions, the constant pressure of a world that did not forgive mistakes. She explained that humans did not evolve expecting safety. They evolved expecting struggle. They do not assume the universe will protect them, Lyra said. They assume it will test them. One council member attempted to dismiss it. They are reckless. This behavior is unsustainable. Lyra met the being's gaze. They are still here. Silence followed. Lyra delivered her final conclusion. Humans were not a minor species. They were not fragile. They were not predictable by standard coalition models. They are a stabilizing force in chaos, she said. Not because they seek control, but because they refuse surrender. The council recessed. Outside the chamber, Lyra felt something unfamiliar settle within her. Relief, mixed with uncertainty. She had spoken honestly, but honesty carried consequences. While the council debated, humans repaired. They patched hulls with temporary plates. They shared medical supplies freely. They converted recreational spaces into shelters. They worked alongside species that had once ignored them. Lyra walked through the human sector openly now. No observation walls, No hidden cameras. Humans noticed her and nodded politely. Some smiled. One offered her a seat. She accepted. The human was an engineer, his arm wrapped in a brace. His movements were slower now. Permanent damage, Lyra's sensors confirmed. Station's going to be okay, he said. You do not know that, Lyra replied. He shrugged. We'll make it okay. She studied his face. There was pain there. Fatigue. And certainty. Do you regret your actions? She asked. He thought for a moment. No. Even knowing the cost? He nodded. Someone had to pay it. That was all. Lyra understood then that humans did not see heroism the way other species did. To them, survival was a shared responsibility. If one could act, one should. Days passed. The Council's decision arrived quietly, without ceremony. Humanity's classification was revised, not publicly announced, not celebrated, but recorded deep within coalition doctrine. Humans were designated as a strategic resilient species. When disaster probability exceeded acceptable thresholds, human advisors were to be consulted. When systems failed, humans were to be included. When the unknown appeared, humans were not to be ignored. Lyra read the designation twice. It was not praise. It was acknowledgement. She was reassigned soon after. No longer an observer. Now, a liaison. Her task was to work with humans directly, to help translate between coalition caution and human action. Some of her colleagues warned her. Humans were dangerous, they said. Unstable, too willing to sacrifice. Lyra did not argue. She joined a human logistics team rebuilding an outer ring. The work was slow, manual, inefficient by coalition standards. It worked. During breaks, humans told stories. Not about the crisis, but about home. About Earth's oceans and deserts. About storms and cities rebuilt again and again. About loss. Spoken plainly, Lyra listened. She realized something important. Humans did not believe suffering made them special. They believed it made them prepared. One evening, Lyra stood near a viewport with a human captain. The ancient object was gone now, drifting harmlessly into deep space. The galaxy underestimated you, Lyra said. The captain did not look pleased. Happens a lot. Creade. Does that concern you? He shook his head. No. Underestimation keeps expectations low. Lyra processed that. Humans did not seek dominance. They sought readiness. Weeks later, the station reopened fully. Trade resumed. Species moved on. The crisis became history, but something had changed. When alarms sounded during drills, humans were watched closely. When systems faltered, humans were asked for input. When uncertainty appeared, someone always said, "What do the humans think?" Lyra noticed the shift everywhere. She also noticed something else. Humans did not change. They remained curious, helpful, quietly stubborn. They still laughed during danger, still helped without being asked, still accepted pain as part of existence. Lyra recorded her final personal note, separate from all official files. She wrote that humans were not the strongest species she had ever studied. They were not the smartest. They were not the most advanced. They were the most experienced at losing and continuing anyway. She concluded with the revelation that had guided her since the beginning. The universe had shaped many civilizations through peace. It had shaped humanity through hardship. And when the universe finally showed its teeth, humans did not flinch. They stepped forward. Lyra looked out at the stars, no longer as an observer, but as a participant in a wider story. For the first time, she felt something close to hope. Not because the galaxy was safe, but because humans were part of it.